ladies and gentlemen, now hosting the RizzoCast. Put your hands together for Steven Risotto.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome. My name is Steven Risotto. I used to cover the San Francisco Giants for SF Bay, and I'm currently a producer for 95.7 The Game. I'm also the host of RizzoCast, a podcast that features current and former big league players, coaches, fans, media, and others who are regarded as some of the brightest minds around the game of baseball. We are doing something a little bit different today. Today's guest is Frank Somerville, who spent 30 years as an award-winning news anchor. It's hard for me to talk. I'll never be an anchor. For KTVU Channel 2 News in the Bay Area. He's seen and covered it all, but in 2021, his private struggles with alcohol became public when he was arrested for driving under the influence. In 2023, he was arrested twice in one night for alcohol-related instances. And now, after a rehab stint, hundreds of AA meetings, and one stern look at his health, Somerville will celebrate 1 year of sobriety on December 19th. We dive into his journey to sobriety, thoughts on modern news media, delivering news as an anchor, the art of storytelling, Bay Area sports, facing reality as an alcoholic, getting clean, what's next for him, so much more. This is episode number 185 of RizzoCast, and let's get started. All right, and we are back on RizzoCast with Frank Somerville, and Frank is nice enough to take some time out of his day and join the show. Frank, what's going on? How you doing? Welcome.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm doing great, actually. On December 20th, I'll have 1 year clean and sober. Something I never ever thought I could do, and as a result of that, I can be consistent now. When I say I'll show up, I'll show up. When I go to the gym, I go to the gym 6 days a week and I work out really hard. I got a compliment from someone the other day who said, "Dude, you work out as hard as the 30-year-olds in here." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're damn right I do." And so I love that. I just bought a new house up in Hiller Highlands, so I've got this incredible view of the entire Bay Area. I found myself just staring out the window because it's just all laid out there. It's so beautiful. So that's what's going on with me. And just, you know what, trying to enjoy retirement and figure out things to do to keep me busy. I like to be busy. And so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, we'll get into that in just a bit, and that's great. First of all, congratulations on the near 1 year sobriety. We'll get into kind of how that process has been for you in just a little bit, but that's a great milestone, and I think a lot of people who, myself included, who kind of grew up watching you and grew up admiring you, it's very cool to see that you're on track again, and you're kind of a new start, new house, stuff hanging up on the walls, like Frank Somerville new start. So it's
This
really
is
cool
Frank
to see.
Somerville 2.0.
2.0. Okay.
And also, you know what else? When you're an alcoholic and you think about some of the things that you did, and that's really hard for me. But I'm so grateful that I'm healthy. My liver is fine. I'm so grateful that I can still work out. I'm humble. You just see the world differently when you're clean, and it's great.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I do want to thank you again for, we were able to schedule this pretty quickly. So some backstory for those that might not know. I interviewed Frank for a story when I was at the San Francisco State newspaper. And we kind of just talked about his journey, and I'll link that somewhere in the story. And we don't have to go too much into the nitty gritty details of it, but I do want to give you a chance to to share your story. And we're recording this. I guess we could start here. We're recording this right in the middle of the holiday season, and the weather's cold, and there's Christmas commercials on TV. I'm going to give you kind of a different one to start here, Frank. We'll get into all the other stuff in just a second, but do you have a favorite holiday tradition that you kind of look forward to the most during this time of year? Like, is there anything that you think about that comes to mind, that something you do every year, something you look forward to doing every year?
One of the things, it sounds weird, but I have Danish in my background, and they have something that they're little pancakes, and they're called ebbelskivers. I think that's how you pronounce them. And all they are, you have a bowl with round holes in it, and you pour the batter in, and then you put applesauce in the middle, and and then you roll the thing over so it comes out like a little ball with applesauce in it, and you pour syrup on it, or you pour uh, powdered sugar on it. That's what I like. And you can put in anything. You can put in apples. You can put in whatever you want in the middle. But that was always our tradition. That's always been our tradition, and that's what I think about when I think about Christmas is all of us together, uh, eating apple skivers and celebrating our Danish background.
Is there any favorite Christmas movie that pops into mind? I mean, pick from the buffet, Frank.
Gosh,
There's a lot of them, huh?
I don't, I don't really have any. Whatever that one was, I know the one I always used to watch when I was younger. It was with Jimmy Stewart, and it was black. It was God. It was just this beautiful Christmas movie where the child doesn't believe in Santa and eventually does. Wish I could remember what the heck it's called, but yeah, that one always got to me.
I think
Oh, and then
It's a
also,
Wonderful
wait.
Life.
Home
Is that it?
Alone.
Home
Is it
Alone. There's
Home
another one.
Alone? That's the one. God darn it. Macaulay Culkin was so great. And that first Home Alone was that would have to be my favorite.
Yeah, it's always the first one because there's a few Home Alones after that, right? And they're just not as good. So the sequels are
Oh,
never as good as the first one.
it's like Jaws 4, really. The shark follows the guy down the coast to South America or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
how would it's so stupid.
Yeah.
But the
Back to the
first
Future 3 as another
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. But Back to the Future was so freaking outstanding. And it's always hard to see Michael J. Fox. I wonder what he thinks when he sees those movies. Now he's confined to a wheelchair. And, life happens. It's the same thing with Greg Papa. Who would have thought? And I can only wish that guy the best. But as you get older, I'm 68. As you get older, you start thinking about stuff like that. And one thing I am going to do, oh, this is the other thing since I'm clean, I'm doing stuff that I've always wanted to do. I always used to think I'm going to do that, and I never did it. So one of the ones that I always thought about but never did was parachuting. So on March 19th, which is my birthday, my 60th birthday, I am going parachuting. And I am terrified, but I can't wait.
Are you going to skydive too? Because I know they're kind of related. Is skydiving
No,
also
that's
something
that's
you would
what
want
that's
to
what it
do?
is. It's skydiving.
Okay.
Yeah, we call it parachuting too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's skydiving. I'll be tandem, and I swear I'm going to be so scared when we're on the edge of the plane. But the guy's going to push us out, and I think it's 13,000 feet, and you free fall for 50 seconds, and then the parachute opens, and I just keep telling myself I am going to be so proud of myself afterward because I'm walking through a fear. And my fear is heights and jumping out of a freaking airplane when you don't need to. And so, yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'll post
exactly.
about it.
Yeah, we'll have to hear about that for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's get into you a little bit. I know obviously growing up in the East Bay, Berkeley High School, San Francisco State, go
Mhm.
Gators. Why was the news something that intrigued you? Like a young Frank Somerville, why was news something that kind of intrigued you and piqued your interest as something that you wanted to get into?
That's a great question. First of all, I was at UCLA for a year. And I needed to pick one more class, and I saw Communications 10, and I thought, stupid. And my roommate says, no, 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 take it. It's an easy A. And so I took it, and I'm in the middle of, I think it was Royce Hall, and this big hall, and this guy comes out and starts talking about TV news. And it was literally like a little light bulb went on top of my head. I thought, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I didn't like LA, so I transferred up to SF State, which has a great broadcast department. And, and then I had to decide, do I want to be in print, radio, or TV? And I remember my thought was, I like to write, but I don't only want to write. I like to use my voice. I like to use pictures, write the pictures. I like the immediacy of that. And and so I moved into TV, but the greatest advice I ever got was from a Gil Har, who worked at KYUU. And I was applying to be a traffic reporter, and he looked at my resume and he said, "Look, what do you really want to do? Do you want to be in radio or TV?" I said, "Well, push comes to shove, I want to be in TV." This was his exact quote. "Then don't fuck around in radio." And it was the best advice I ever got because from that point on, I could just focus on TV news. And what I'm drawn to is I have ADD, so everything is constantly changing. That fires me up. Nothing gets me happier than when the newscast breaks down. And it's my job to make it look like everything's going fine, even though behind the scenes it's not. It's also something new every day. And then most importantly, it's a chance to help people. And that's the real reason I got into TV news was to make a difference.
Hmm.
And I think during my career I made a hell of a difference, especially with some of the stories I posted on Facebook. And 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 so that's what TV news means to me, and that's why I got involved. And also, by the way, to experience things. I got a chance to fly with the Blue Angels and threw up mid-flight. I know what it's like to be in an FA-18. I've watched an autopsy, ooh. And then I've watched two executions at San Quentin, and I got to do those. I volunteered to do those things because I wanted to learn. I wanted to know what it was about. So for example, with the death penalty, because I've watched one, if there's ever a debate about the death penalty, I could interview the person differently from someone who has not seen an execution because I was there. And that's important. I think an anchor is only as good as his or her experiences. And so over the years, I've gotten a lot of experiences, and I'm a curious guy. What can I say? I love that. And yeah, so that's how and why I got into TV news.
That's awesome. And you kind of came up in your career right around the time, right, where the 24 hours news station started becoming more prominent, right? CNN
Yeah,
had already established itself a little bit
yeah.
earlier. MSNBC was there. Fox News later followed. And now you
Mhm.
kind of see where we are now in the news industry. And what are some of the changes that you've noticed with the way that people used to perceive news and now are perceiving news? Some of the changes you've seen in that over the years?
Well, the biggest change is social media. The
Yeah.
biggest change is that anytime I want to get any information, I no longer have to wait until the 6 o'clock news. I can just Google it and boom, it pops up. So that's one of the biggest challenges is figuring out how to get people to watch you as opposed to going on social media to find out. I think also when it comes to cable news, um, I don't watch it at all. I can't stand those stupid panel discussions and I was told this by someone who was going to be on CNN, that they tell you to stay in your lane. How can you have a debate if you're staying in your lane? You can't. And that's what it looks like. You've got the one token Republican towing the Republican line no matter what. And just once, I'd love to see a Democrat go, "God damn it, that's a great idea. I'd never thought about that before." Now, that would be a real panel discussion, not the crap they have now. They're just interested in creating chaos, not actually solving the problem, in my opinion. And with TV news locally, um, I think, and perhaps this is because I'm older, but a lot of the hires in the Bay Area, they shouldn't be here yet. They should pay their dues and then come here. I'm just stunned at some of the people I see where I go, I don't think that person belongs in Fargo, North Dakota, not here. And it's not to say that they're not good. They're just not good yet. And I'm sure they will be. But my journey was pretty typical back then. I started up in Santa Rosa at KFTY Channel 50. I moved to Minneapolis to be the morning anchor. I moved to Rhode Island to be the noon anchor. And then I came to Channel 2. And that to me was a typical journey, but I don't think that's the case as much anymore. Now it's just young and cheap, and it shows. And it's why I don't watch any TV news unless there's something breaking. That's where TV news really comes into play. But I don't watch any TV news, quite frankly. I read the Washington Post. the Guardian, the Chronicle, and the New York Times. And sometimes I'll watch Fox just to get a different perspective. Um, 9 times out of 10, I don't agree with it at all. But I think it's important to get as many different perspectives as we can, and also not let bias creep into stories. I mean, I see that all the time. So it's just the level of quality in the Bay Area has gone way down, and I hope it comes back at some point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a loaded question what I'm about to ask you, but because there's what you mentioned just now about how the younger and the cheaper are getting opportunities, right? So if there's somebody who is 40 years younger than you, Frank, and then you at the level that you were doing it, they're going to probably hire that person because they're cheaper, right? And it's the quality maybe is going to be a little bit less, but they could save a buck. So what can we do to kind of restore this faith? I mean, is there anything we could do? Is it just kind of a product of capitalism? Like is there anything that we could do to kind of restore faith in the news media and I guess, the reputation of some of these stations that it seems like money is making the world go around for them and they're
Yeah.
valuing that more than the delivery of the news itself.
Yeah, let me just tell you a quick story. KRON, the general manager there, was going to take a chance on me. He was going to hire me. And because of my arrest involving my daughter, that's out the window. But he was ready to take a chance. He was ready to go with his gut. He was, I'm not going to break the bank, but stations could sure as heck use me because I just love working, and I think it's really important to have a veteran player in the newsroom, and I'm a veteran player, but I sure don't act 68. I mean, I got more energy than I mean, I'm boom, boom, boom. That's what I like. I would hope someone would hire me at some point. I'm willing to work at whatever. It's just the idea of having a purpose and doing something that I love. And I'd even consider radio too. But I think it's important for stations to have a balance of younger people and older people because the older people, it's just like a sports team. You can't win with all youngsters. You got to have those veteran players too, who give those young guys crucial advice to help with their careers. And I like nothing more than talking to students or mentoring students or mentoring young people who are coming up. And sometimes it's as basic as just saying, iron your freaking shirt. Why are you out there with a shirt that looks like you just took it out of the dryer? and 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 having a better presence and having a better understanding and that just comes quite frankly with experience. And I think stations should start looking for one or two key places where they can hire someone who's older, who's a veteran, who can add to the newsroom. So that would be my first thought, and that wouldn't break the bank, but it would you need that main anchor. You need that main guy who you need that quarterback. And and that's what I am, and that's what people like me are. And I think stations now are lacking quarterbacks. They just are. I see like a lot of practice squad quarterbacks.
That's a great way to put it. And I want to talk more about anchoring for a second because I'm fascinated. You were an anchor behind the news desk. I mean, obviously a really long time, and you would throw to reporters on the scene. Um, and you were the big guy at this station, but did you ever occasionally wish you were out there in the field reporting, like maybe to shake things up just a little bit? Do you ever think
Oh,
about?
God, yes. I volunteered for so many different things, uh, natural disasters, things like that. And I was always told, no, we need you on the desk. And I thought, God dang it, I really want to be out there. I was out there for the opening of the New Bay Bridge, and that was fascinating. But God, I love being the guy on the scene. And that's what fires me up. That's what gets me psyched is being out there. And yes, I wish I could have done that more, but the station always said, nope, we need you on the desk. And I mean, I guess that's a big compliment, but darn it, I like being out there. That's why I would actually go to scenes on my own, because I wanted to, if I knew we were covering it, I wanted to see the scene. So I had a perspective on how big everything is, how far apart everything is, or how close everything is, or just whatever that comes from actually being there. One of the things I did, I went to the funerals for eight young black and white men, eight young black men and women, including one baby. And I wanted to do that. That was my way of going out. And I know what those funerals are like now. They're all open casket. They're all wearing shirts that say "Rest in peace, so and so." And one of the again, this is what happens when you go out. I'll never forget talking to a guy, and I said, "Can you tell me how many funerals you've gone to in the past year?" He counted them out, 13. Then I talked to a young kid, probably 16, 17. And she was at a funeral. And I said, "Do you go to a lot of funerals?" And she said, "I used to go to so many that now I only go if I really knew the person." I think about that. That's their life. And it's important for me to be out there to better understand what that life is like. And that the people who are killed are not just a number. They're a boy, they're a man, they're a woman, and they have a story. They have relatives, they have brothers, sisters, all of that. But we just generally will do a 20-second voiceover saying that so and so was shot and killed last night. He's the 45th homicide of the year. Last year at this time they had 68 and no suspects. I mean, that's what we would say. And I wanted to flesh that out. I didn't want people to see this person as just a number. So I would go out on my own so I could do that.
There's a lot of people I know, Frank, that don't watch the news because they exactly what you just said. They're sick of seeing bad news. They're sick of seeing the negative things and the things that happen. And we talk a lot about leading off the A block of the 10 o'clock news with a fire that happened that killed two people, or a shooting in Oakland that killed three people, or what happens in Washington D.C. that's negative. What do you say to those people who say that they don't watch news because of all the bad news? And how do we bring in those people?
You know what? That is a great question, and it's something that I struggle with. Um, um, I always believe good storytelling will pull people in. There's a reason why 60 Minutes has been on the air so long. They tell a good story. And I think that we could do a much better job of that. For example, again, we need to flesh out the stories so that people can relate. If you do a story on a fire, tell me about the people who live there. Ask them what they're going to do. They're always going to say, "I don't know." Well, like, what are you going to do in the next hour? I mean, things like that pull you in, that flesh out the story, so it's not just nuts and bolts. I do remember at times I felt like our first block was literally just a crime report, and 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 I find that even when I'm reading, I can only take so much because, for example, I just cannot read about the situation in Gaza anymore because it breaks my heart to see what's happening to the Palestinian people. And so I get that people don't want to see that, but I wish that we would do more stories on people, more story on more stories on people doing kind things, good things, people struggling, and like me. I think I'd be a great story on Jesus. A year ago, you couldn't even walk. A year ago, you were passed out on the sidewalk from drinking vodka. I mean, and now look at me. I think those are the kind of stories that I'd like to see more of. And that's what I did on Facebook. That's why I have 500,000 followers on Facebook, because I told real stories about real people. And I wish we'd do a little more of that. And also, it's also the anchors. I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but sometimes I'll watch anchors read, and as I'm listening to their voice, I'm thinking, do you even realize what you're reading? You just talked about three kids killed, and you showed absolutely no emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no change in your voice, nothing. And I think that I'd like to see anchors be more human. And same with PIOs, public information officers. Be more freaking human and just talk for real. And I think people can relate to that better. That was a very long answer to a simple question. I also wish that we'd keep things in perspective. We don't need to know about every single fire, every single car accident. Keep things in perspective.
100%. And you mentioned something just now about the tone of the anchor's voice and how they don't change their voice. And I actually wanted to ask something about that. And this might sound like a stupid question, Frank, but
There's
I'm
no
sure
stupid
people
questions.
I'm sure people are curious about this. Is it difficult? Because again, people that are not anchors and don't have to do this don't know. But is it difficult reading off of a teleprompter? And like how long did it take you to even master that skill at a high level?
Well, at first I had what I call deer in the headlights, and I was terrified to look away from the prompter because I'd think I'd lose my place. So you just stare like this. And after a while, um, that makes people uncomfortable because they are thinking, why is that man staring at me? Why can't he look off every now and then?
Yeah.
So now what I try to do is just be as human as possible. And so we can over enunciate words sometimes. Um, he is going to a game. He's going to a game. Something like that. That's how we talk. And and I, reading off the prompter now is actually easy. I have no problem at all. It's the other things that go into it. Reading it is the to me is the easy part. The more difficult part is just letting myself be trusting myself enough to just be human. Trusting myself enough to just be myself on camera and showing slight inflections. You don't go, hey, three people, did you see three people were killed tonight? A car crash on 80? No, you would never say that. You go, God, did you see what happened on 80? Three people were killed. God, that that's the change in inflection and excuse me, and that's what shows people that you're actually thinking about what you're talking about, that you actually care about what you're talking about. And so that would be what I would try to do. And also, I didn't do fake smiles because I can't. I don't know how to fake smile. And I don't like just stupid chit chat. I like to say something. And again, one of the most difficult things for anchors at first, I believe, is learning to just be yourself, to trust yourself enough to be yourself, to not be stuck on all those words, but actually just be reading them like a human being.
Yeah, and
So,
and when you're not a human being, there are times where you have to go off script, right? Like when you're asking maybe a follow-up question to a reporter who's on the scene, or you're just like in between a sports report or right after a sports report when you're wrapping up the news, and there is that little chit chat. Did you look forward to those moments at all where you could go off script and you could kind of make that personality show a little bit more, and it wasn't just looking at a teleprompter?
sure, I'll give you two examples. One is I loved working with Mark because Mark said, say anything to me. And I said, say anything to me too. So it was real stuff. I mean, we could argue about hockey, and I could say, screw the NBA, man. Hockey's much better. And we could argue about that. Or like that deflate gate thing with Tom Brady. I mean, we argued about that on the air. And so Mark was so easy in that respect. I do remember I had to do two apologies on the air for things that I didn't do, but I was the one who had to apologize. And I remember one of them was for our coverage of Nia Wilson. She was this beautiful black woman who was had her throat slit by some dude on a BART train. And when we were doing a story on her, we pulled pictures off of a Facebook page, and one of the pictures was of her holding what looked like a gun like this. Well, it actually was a cigarette lighter, but it implied, you know what, she's probably a gangbanger and who, then you don't care as much, right? No, she was this beautiful young freaking woman. And so I don't know why we showed that picture. It was disgraceful. But what I did was when I had to apologize for using that picture, uh, they wrote out the script with the apology, a little bullshit apology. We apologize for the error, blah, 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 blah. It felt like a lawyer had written it. And so I told the director, I said, when I get finished with this, stay on me. Don't cut away from me because I'm going to ad lib some stuff. And so what I did was I came out, I read the thing, and then I said, I just really want to tell you that we've got a lot of really talented people here, but it's clear they made a mistake. And I've talked to them, and they're sorry. And I want to apologize to Nia's parents right now and say, I'm sorry. We're sorry. And I got a note from someone in Florida who said that was the best on-air apology I've ever seen. And I'll be honest, it was damn good. And it was real. That's the most important thing, it was real. It wasn't just this gobbledygook of, oh, we made a mistake, apologize, blah, 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 blah. That goes in one and out the other. So that's where my feelings came out, and it was real. And that's my big thing. I like real. I remember I was anchoring the 5 o'clock news with this woman. I can't remember her name now. And we were doing a story on the Kardashians. And I said, you know what? When we come out of that, don't ask me about them because I can't stand them. And sure enough, we came out and she asked me about them. And I said, honestly, I don't care about a thing those people do. And I was like, why would you ask me that? But I wasn't going to play along. I wasn't going, yeah, ha, ha, yeah, those Kardashians, huh? No, I can't stand anything. I can't stand everything about them. And the influence, the negative influence they've had on so many young girls like my daughters is disgraceful as far as I'm concerned. But they're incredibly talented people at marketing themselves. I'll give them that. Jeez. But again, that was me being real. I had to be real. I had to say, I just don't care about the car. I don't care about anything the Kardashians do. I've never watched them. I never will watch them. And so that was again me being real. And I think people appreciate that. It's even um like acknowledging the elephant in the room sometime. If darn it, I'm trying to think of an example. Well, I can give you an example. When I was in Rhode Island, I was interviewing someone, I think with Parkinson's, and he would shake. And so I was interviewing him, and he started to shake. But the camera, you couldn't see that on camera. And I didn't trust myself enough to say, can the camera pull out a little bit? Because I think this is what we're talking about. This is the shaking that we're talking about, right? But I didn't trust myself back then to do that. I was, and that's what I do now. But I had to learn that. Let me get out of the sun. Okay, there we go.
So Frank,
So I hope that answers your question.
no, that's great. So tell me about the Kardashians. What do you think about? No,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay, touche. That was a good one.
yeah, that was not on my rundown here. I figured I'd bother you a little bit. Here's a question that I don't know if you've been asked this, but I'm trying to think. Okay, what has he not been asked? So I
Mhm.
mean, everybody has anybody ever approached you about hearing your voice like in a documentary? Like, here's an example. I'll be watching Netflix from Netflix from time to time, and I'll be watching a true crime
Yeah.
documentary,
Mhm.
and they play the archival news footage, and
Mhm.
sometimes they'll play a lot of just Bay Area news
Yeah.
coverage, and
Yeah.
sometimes you're the one talking. Do you ever watch those or hear of anybody that watched those and go,
Yeah.
Frank, I
I,
heard
I
you on this documentary?
I watched it. I watched it. I'm like, whoa, hey, there I am. Um, and I've had other people come up where they said, I didn't recognize you at first, but I recognized your voice. And that's always so weird to me because I don't think I have a distinct voice. I just feel like I have an average voice.
You might not
And
have a distinct voice, but does it mean anything that like you are literally welcomed into these people's homes every single night? So even though there's no distinct voice, it's almost like you're a part of the family in a way.
oh my God, that was just such a beautiful thing that people, when people come up to me and the things that they say, and and I remember one of the most touching things ever was when I was doing a story. It was right after 9/11, and on board 9/11 was this woman. God, I'm blanking on her name right now. And anyhow, she called her husband from the flight, and 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 I asked him about it, and he paraphrased it. But I didn't feel this is one case where I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to go, can I hear it? And as we were leaving, he said, would you like to hear it? And I went, what? Yes, yeah, wow. And I was so blown away by the fact that here's a guy who doesn't know me at all, and yet he's going to let me listen to something that at that point had not been released to the public. And what was remarkable about it was how unremarkable it was. She picked up the phone and she said, hi, sweetie. Hey, can you pick up the phone? Um, because she called early in the morning out here. And she said, all right, well, we just have a little problem on the plane. But she wanted to say, I'll see you later. And she knew she wouldn't. And, and it sounded like she was in the middle of a grocery store talking. There was no panic. There was it wasn't overly emotional. There's no crying. It was just very matter of fact. And and I'll never forget that. He allowed me to hear it. That was one of the most touching moments I've ever had um, in this business.
Yeah, and some of those stories, of course, those kind of feel good stories that are shared on your social media page, which you've mentioned a little while ago, and your Facebook page especially, and you've kind of cemented something on Facebook where you're kind of before your time just a little bit, right? Now it's like
Mhm.
mainstream and doing stuff on social media is considered normal, but you were doing it like you've been doing it for years, that kind of level of storytelling. So how important has that following been to not just your local profile, but I feel like even nationally, you've kind of grown from being seen on Facebook.
You know what? I don't really know because yes, the Facebook page is popular, and yes, when I post stories, I mean, I think I got 7,000 likes and 1,000 comments when I posted that I was at 300 days. And the fact that I still have an ability to do that, to get an audience, is is phenomenal to me. I mean, I love that. But I feel like when I scroll through Facebook, I'm scrolling less and less these days because it's just all it is ads. And it feels like Facebook is dying to me. I don't know what else is out there. I haven't done Instagram or anything like that. But but just the idea that I can make a difference with my words, and that's really important to me.
Yeah,
Um, that's why I got into this business.
yeah, 100%. And uh, a few more here before we wrap up. I know I've kept you for too long.
Oh, I'm fine. I love this, man. I could talk forever.
Yeah. Let's pivot. I know because one of the big reasons why is we talked about your sobriety and during the course of your career you had the drinking problem, of course, and I'll link the story that I wrote somewhere in the description of this podcast where people could read it. But how did those issues with alcohol kind of affect your on-air performance? Did they at all affect anything that was going on when the light was on? And what are
Actually,
the kind of the misperceptions that people have of that?
you know what? It really didn't affect me on air because I didn't let those two intersect, the alcohol and the. But what they did do was they affected me in the sense that I felt like I was a fake, a fraud, and I had this dirty little secret. And and I remember when people would come up to me and say, "God, I love you on the air. Can we take a picture?" Something like that. I thought, yeah, but if you only knew what's really going on. And so what's great now is that everyone knows what's going on. I've got no secrets. I'll tell anybody. I'll answer any question, and that's the beauty of being clean. But what the way it did affect my work is, I mean, I know it did. And I know I said it didn't, but what I mean is I was never drunk on the air or anything like that. But the way it affected me was I couldn't be consistent. Some days I'd be tired because I was up all night. Um, and then and then also it's like going through life with one hand tied behind your back, or in some cases both hands tied behind your back, because a part of my brain, a large part of my brain, I'd say 50% was spent thinking about okay, when am I going to drink again? I got to have a drink. And then afterward, going, oh, I can't believe I did that. Damn it. I'm never going to do that again. And those things never come true because I wasn't ready to stop and I wasn't ready to ask for help. And to me, that was the biggest mistake I made. Was not asking for help. But as I look back, I realized I was terrified to ask for help. I thought that would show weakness, and man anchors don't show weakness, just like police, firefighters, that kind of thing. No one admits it that they have a problem. And now I look at it completely differently. I feel like I am so strong for what I did. It was a strength to finally ask for help. It was a strength to go through 75 days of intense rehab at this place called Duffy's up in Calistoga, greatest place ever. Um, but uh, that's why I would actually love another chance on the on air is to show people what I'm like when I have no hands tied behind my back. I mean, you think I was good before? Holy shit! Wait till you see me now. That's the way I look at it because I'm free. I mean, I've already seen what consistency can do to my body. I train hard. If you ever want to work out, I'll train you, and I won't. I'll push the hell out of you.
That could be my next story. A day in a life with Frank Somerville in the
Oh,
gym.
heck yeah.
How about that?
I work out at Club One in City Center in Oakland. And yeah, I'm all about, but I mean, I look at my body now in the mirror, and sometimes I'll do a double take going, whoa, that's you. And I mean, I've gotten really big. And I could only I want to test my body. I want to see how far I can go. And one of the things I do with that is running on the treadmill. I'll do 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And the idea is to sprint and then rest for 30 seconds. And I've gotten up to 10 and a half miles an hour, the speed. And that's like a 6 minute mile. So, I mean, I still can't believe that I can only do that for 30 seconds, but at least I can do it. And now I want to get it where I'll go to 11 and then actually see if I can get to where it's the highest. But I think at 68, it's really important for me to work on my health. But now I also can because I'm free.
Yeah, and you're not drinking anymore, and does it almost feel like with the no drinking and with the added hours in the gym, does it almost feel like you've kind of reversed whatever alcohol did to you physically, and you're just kind of at this point just adding years onto your life?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the guys who was my desk mate up at Duffy's recently recently relapsed and died. And that's a hard one. Really like that guy. And I realize now that I'm one drink away from dying. Um, my cousin died from alcohol, and the doctors even told him if you drink again, you'll die. And he drank again. He's dead. And I have his picture on my wall to remind me. And and just there's nothing bad about being clean. Everything's good. And I'm learning how the key for me was learning the reasons why I drank. What was I trying to cover up? What was I trying to hide? What was I trying to deal with? And once you deal with those root causes, you don't have the need to drink anymore. And so that's where I'm at. Um, I don't. I I mean, there's certain places I won't go. I won't go into a bar. Just that's I don't want to be there. But I don't mind if people drink in front of me, and I now have learned how to go to a Sharks game uh, without drinking. And I remember telling people I buy first row seats from a friend of mine right next to the bench. If you've never sat first row for a hockey game, put that on your bucket list. It's
I've never been
incredible.
to a hockey game, so I'll
Ah,
put
dude,
that.
come on now.
Hey, wait, this week, Frank, real quick, this week tomorrow, at work they gave this away, tickets to San Jose Barracuda, so that is changing.
Oh my
So
God, you're going to the Barracuda game?
I'm going to the Barracuda game tomorrow night, so it's changing. Okay, so you don't have to get mad at me now. It's changing.
Okay, good,
yes,
good.
yes. No
And
need
you
to
know
yell at
what?
me.
There's, I mean, that's the great thing about the Barracuda is they're so much cheaper than going to an NHL game,
Yep.
and half the players on the team have been called up by the Sharks at one point or another. But when you sit down low, oh my God, those guys are so badass. I mean, I freaking love hockey. And I think it's important sometimes too to just if you would indulge me here for a moment, to tell people who I am and what I like and what I do, because I think people are so focused now on alcohol that they don't know who I really am. And so one of the things that I wanted to say was that I've been a vegetarian since I was 12 for moral reasons. I don't eat fish or poultry. I love sports, but not all the traditional sports. I'm more of a UFC, Formula One, hockey, football guy. Baseball, I'd rather take a nap. And basketball, oh my God, I just can't watch it. It's just basketball would be better if it was hockey. If they'd stop blowing those damn whistles and cut the number of timeouts. I love the action. But I just can't get into basketball, even though my ex-wife's brother is Jay Wright, who coached at Villanova and won two national championships. I gave up tickets to the Final Four because I just thought, give them to someone where they'd go, oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm going to that game, as opposed to me going, oh, fuck, I got to go to excuse the language, I got to go to the freaking basketball game. I don't even want to go. So give them to someone. I could care less about being there either. It's just give them to someone who enjoys it. I also love fast cars. I love speed. And I'm a collector. I saved all my baseball cards, my football cards, my programs, uh, all of that. And that's a more well-rounded version of me. Um, I like action.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
Action. I love it. And maybe that's on your bucket list is to be one of in those like ceremonial cars for like a lap for
Well,
NASCAR.
I've actually done that.
Okay.
So, yes, Mario Andretti drove me two laps around Sears Point at speed. It was incredible. I remember you're going into the first corner. It's an off-camber corner, which means that it's pointed this way, but you're going like that. So normally you want the curve like that. In this case, it's like that. So I remember going into it, going, "Oh my God, we're going really fast in this corner," and the car just sucked up the road. It was incredible, and he was so smooth with the braking, with the acceleration. There was no lurching, none of that, and that was incredible. I've also been to finally decided to go to a drag race
Hmm.
and I got a press pass. And so I was down right by where they do burnouts. And I remember I thought I was a tough guy, like "Pfft, not wearing earplugs, those are sissies." And there were a couple of cameramen there while I was talking to go, I don't know. I think you might want the earplugs. And and so he gave me some just in case. And I was watching a burnout, and uh, the sound, it was so freaking loud that I almost dropped my phone. I thought my eardrums were going to be blown out. I reached into my pocket so fast and put in those earplugs. But I've never, I wouldn't go to drag race all the time, but when you see a car go off that line, it's like watching a bullet. TV just doesn't do it justice. So yeah, I have a real need for speed.
Yeah. And
I
we'll
love it.
get back to the sobriety in a second, but we're on a roll here. What I mean, do you as an Oakland guy and as a East Bay guy, did you take it personal when Oakland lost all three of its sports teams? Like, I mean, how much of a travesty has that been to you to see?
Damn right, I was pissed off, um, especially the Raiders. Um, but you know what? With the Warriors, yeah, I saw that coming. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that they want to be in a brand new palace at San Francisco, and um, and I didn't really care that much either way because I'm not a basketball guy. But with the A's and with the Giants, I mean the A's and the Raiders, I grew up with them. Those are my teams. wasn't the Niners and the Giants. It was the A's and the Raiders. But I can't really blame the teams for leaving because the Coliseum is so run down. It's so pathetic. Even the change they made to the arena, they didn't make it bigger. They just dug down. So it feels like you're in a mousetrap. And so I don't blame the teams. I wish Oakland could have figured out a way, or Alameda County could have figured out a way to build a new stadium for them. I would have loved an A's stadium with the tram that they were talking about. I thought that would be cool. And with the Raiders, I'm just pissed that the NFL let them leave. To me, it would be like letting the Pittsburgh Steelers leave or the Green Bay Packers leave. No, no, you can't do that. They're the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to me, they were the Oakland Raiders. And now I look at them and the only true Raider I see now is Max Crosby. I love that guy. He just reminds me of what the Raiders were. And now I don't see any personality on the team. They don't have those guys like they used to with Matuzak and Tatum and Jim Otto. I mean, those were Raiders. I don't see any of those guys on the team now, other than Max Crosby. And I also love Pete Carroll. I want to be like him when I'm 74. Just that's what I feel like, just a ball of energy, always chewing on that gum, walking back and forth on the sidelines. I love that dude, but
With the
I hope
dirty
they get a
white
good pick.
sneakers,
What's that?
the dirty white sneakers that he
Yeah,
wears.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that guy. Sorry. I love that guy. So I hope the Raiders come back. It looks like they may get the first choice, and maybe they could pick Fernando Mendoza or the kid from Vanderbilt. I'd love Mendoza though. Just a shame that he didn't stick at Cal. But yeah.
Yeah, Cal Berkeley's been a big story too. So with their
Well, yeah. Cal to me is just always going to be mediocre,
yeah,
unless they really change. And now the college football, it's ridiculous. Cal's playing in the ACC. Seriously,
yeah.
Stanford's at the ACC. It's ridiculous.
And there's so
I,
much money involved now too, as these
I
these
know.
kids get the NIL deal and they're being paid in endorsements.
Yeah, that's incredible. You got some of these people making over $1 million a year. And now
Sometimes
it
it's
feels
it's 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 more beneficial for them to stay an extra year of college than get drafted and make the league minimum because
right.
they have these endorsement deals.
It also feels like I do like the idea that players are getting played, but what it feels like now is that you can outbid for players.
Yeah,
And that's just it's not pure like it used to be.
yeah.
And maybe this is just an old guy talking, trying to remember the old times and not get with the new times. I don't know, but I'm old school in a lot of ways.
Well, no, I agree with you because I
Yeah.
think there's a meaning and there's a significance to staying 4 years and building a chemistry with the same group rather than just it's a new team every year and you're dealing with basically free agency every single year and you're trying to recruit
Yeah.
and yeah,
It's just, I mean, I still love college football. I love college football. I'm fine with pro football. I can have it on in the background and that's fine, but I don't really care that much unless it's the 49ers playing um, or the Raiders because I root against the Raiders. So that makes it fun. I just feel like they're the LA, well, they used to call them the LA Traders. Now they're the Las Vegas Traders. And they're never coming back. Mark Davis got his palace, and I just don't understand why the NFL could not have helped figure out a way to keep them here, because the Raiders are Oakland, and Oakland is the Raiders,
yeah.
and same with the A's. God, they're playing in a minor league field up in Sacramento, really? But again, I get the Coliseum is trash. They need to tear that down and build something new. It's just a shame they couldn't figure out a way.
Yeah. No doubt about it. And a few more things, and then I'll let you go, Frank.
Okay.
You mentioned, obviously, in 10 days you'll be a year sober, and the major accomplishment. And again, congratulations.
Hmm.
And everybody that goes through this, from what I've read, and I guess you can't experience it until you experience it, is that people have, I guess, their individual motivations on what works for them, right? What has been the key to your success, and what has been the hardest part in sobriety?
Um, I'll start with the hardest one. the hardest one where I was really put to a test was when my friend Steve, my desk mate, died. And my first thing is I would have run for a drink so I could numb myself from feeling. So in this case, I grieved. I actually grieved. I actually felt I actually acknowledged my feelings. And I just thought, man, that's a huge breakthrough for me to actually feel instead of doing something to make me not feel. And in terms of getting sober, uh, I never thought I could. I really didn't. I always viewed it as this huge mountain. There's no way I can climb that mountain. And now I'm not only climbing that mountain, I think I'm close to the top. But it will always still be a one day at a time, 24 hours at a time. That's the way we look at it. And so I go to AA meetings. I go to a Duffy's alumni meeting, which is just like an AA meeting, and that's every morning at 6. And then tonight I'm going to a men's group meeting. Sometimes I'll call in and do an online meeting during the day. I find that all of those things really help. But I can't just be one of those meeting guys. I got to live it too. And so that's why I'm pushing myself to go skydiving. Oh, well, I'm not reading about it. I'm not dreaming about it. I'm not reading a book on how to deal with your fears. I'm actually dealing with them, by going up in that damn plane. And I'm telling everyone so that I can't back out because I would disappoint people. And I don't want to do that. So I'm telling everyone, and God damn it, I'm going to freaking do it. I've visualized it so many times in my mind, but I want to do it. And so I think, excuse me, the sun keeps getting in here. So I think that for me, it's a combination of actually doing the steps, which are phenomenal, and also living what you're learning. And that's what I'm doing too. And I find that that is really the key. Going to the gym when I don't want to, going to a meeting when I don't want to. Um, they all help. I can be as sore as I can be, and I go to the gym and I feel better. It's just getting there. Just get there. That's what my trainer used to always say. Just show up. I'll take it from there. And so just show up to an AA meeting, and they'll take it from there. And 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 I love this balance that I have right now. Sometimes honestly, I sit in those in-person meetings and I just think to myself, I never in a million years would have thought that I'd be in a meeting like this and that I'd be around all of these people who are like me and that I would share things. And my higher power, quite honestly, I don't really believe in God, but my higher power is my group. Um, Bruce Lee had a quote where he said, if you have a single match, snap it, right? If you got a bunch of matches tied together, now they're strong. And and so I feel strength when I'm with my group. That gives me strength. I know they're there for me. I know they have my back, but they also have empathy because they've been there, done that. And we've all been there and done that. So we all understand. And I think it's important for me to talk about it because A, I want to show people that it can happen to anyone. B, I want to share how I did it and how I've been clean for a year. And then C, I want to explain to people like my dad. We were talking about fentanyl, and he said, I don't know why they just don't stop. And I said, Dad, that's the power of addiction. They can't. If they could just stop, there'd be no addicts. And trying to get him and the general public to understand that these meetings aren't some kind of mystery, that all of this isn't some kind of mystery. It's all a plan, and it's a plan that works. And I used to get caught up on the God part, and yeah, there are a lot of people who are very devoted and say that God helped them, and I say the group helped me, and I do it that way. Because in the past, I'd use, oh, I'm not going to go hang out with a bunch of God squatters talking about freaking God and blah, blah, blah. And now here I am, and I love it.
So let's talk about God. No. I got
Oh,
your
can I
gift.
say,
Yeah.
touche again? Can I say that one of the quotes that I live by is from Matthew Perry.
I was just about to bring that up. You took the
And
words right out of my mouth.
yeah, and Matthew Perry said, I've done a lot of bad things, but I am not a bad person. And I can tell you for a fact that describes every single person I've met in recovery. We have all done incredibly bad things. Um, Alcohol or coke or drugs. It's amazing when you look back and go, God, I actually thought that was okay doing that. I didn't think about the risk. I didn't think, you just, the way you behave is just completely different. So I know I think Matthew Perry was a darn good guy. He just had that iron grip that he couldn't get out of. And I know that I'm a good guy. I mean, I really am. But but it I get it. It's a bummer that people only focus on the mistakes and the arrests. And those were very, very unfortunate. And I learned a lot from both of them. And I won't make those mistakes again, that's for sure.
We didn't even need to touch on it here. I think there comes a point in time where you talk about something enough that it's time to talk about the Oakland Coliseum not being good enough to play, right? So,
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
hell, I could talk sports all day long.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
I love following sports.
yeah. And final thing here, like what's next for you? You mentioned that, you're trying to find things to do kind of in retirement. You would like to work again, so maybe it's a little bit of a semi-retirement. Do you expect to work again? Like what's next? Because I know a lot of people in your spot maybe would start a podcast, and I'll send you information on that. People are
Yeah,
doing TikTok, people are doing like kind of their independent thing. What do you think's in store for you coming up here?
um, I'd definitely like to do a podcast. I just think I need someone who could help me produce it. But I would definitely, or maybe I could figure it out on my own. But I would definitely love to do that. I'll be honest, I would love to be back in TV. And I recognize that A, I'm old, and B, I have a record. But maybe in a year, people will see, boy, this dude's really changed and be willing to take a risk on me, just like the general manager from Cron was, Chris something or other. Really, really good guy. Um, and I always have that dream, but at the same time, I'm trying to just enjoy retirement. It's amazing. Every day I get to pick what I do, and that's kind of cool. But at some point, I want to be working in some kind of capacity.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're picking watching Macklin Celebrini and choosing to talk about the Kardashians and Frank, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a total blast, and I'm glad that we were able to
Oh
set this up.
man, thank you so much for having me. I mean, well, you can see I love talking, and I really appreciate this. And I hope that in some way, I always hope that in some way, my story might give someone some hope, because there's a lot to be hopeful for, and there's a lot to be grateful for.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that that's, again, congratulations on 1 year coming up here in about 10 days from when we're recording this. And if anybody wants to go follow the podcast, everybody could check us out on RizzoCast at RizzoCast on Twitter and Instagram. Go follow, go subscribe, do all that fun stuff for more. And follow Frank's Instagram page and Facebook page. Go check that out. I'll link everything, and I'll link the story that I wrote. I can't believe it's been
Three
like
years, I
3
know.
years. Insane
Yeah.
when that
You were
was that
such a
the
youngster back then.
I know. Was that the
But I
last time
could,
you were on campus?
honestly, Stephen, I got to tell you something. I could tell that you were going to go places because of the questions you asked, how organized you were, how persistent you were. All of those qualities told me this guy's going to make it in this business. And so it's so great to see you working at 95.7, right?
That's right.
Yeah, outstanding. I just couldn't be more proud.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you everybody for listening, and have a good one, and we'll talk soon.